Hello, everyone. This is the seventh episode of the Spectrum Spotlight, and today's guest is actually someone pretty special. He is not only going to be our guest speaker for this week, but he's also an active member of Mentoring Autistic Minds. Alex here is a very active member in our group, has been here since near the beginning, and I'm very happy to have him not just as a member, but also as a guest speaker. It's an honor to have someone like Alex here with us. So, Alex, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Well, for starters, thank you, David, for the invite. And yeah, a little bit about me. I'm on the autism spectrum. I have a variety of special interests that include watching sports like baseball, football, college basketball, and college football. I'm an SDSU alum, so I'm very partial to San Diego State University and rooting on my Aztecs. And also San Diego Padres fan and Las Vegas Raiders fan. So those are my allegiances. I also have special interest for data science. I'll talk more about that later, but I'm a self-taught data analyst, so
Gotcha.
I'm very well versed in different programming languages and such. And that's where my career is. I'm a data analyst right now for a company called Cubic Transportation Systems. I'm
Uh-huh.
currently working on a master's degree in data science for UCSD. Very
Mm-hmm.
excited to be a Triton and be involved in that program. And I guess you would say a new special interest slash passion of mine I've developed in the last couple of years is that I really enjoy volunteering in the autism community and working on autism acceptance and inclusion projects. And obviously having an ally like you, David, to collaborate with always helps.
For sure. And you're a pretty good ally in our group, and I'm glad you become kind of the star member of our group. It's been so awesome to have you here in our group. So what I wanted to ask you was when did you discover you had autism?
Very interesting question. Um, it, the way that my parents described it to me is that I was diagnosed when I was four, or between 3 and 4. I was diagnosed very early. I forget the exact moment of time where I conceptualized that I had autism, but it was one of those things where my parents were very intentional about telling me that I had autism at a young age and just describing it in a way that they felt as if I could comprehend. I think having the understanding that I was on the autism spectrum was very helpful. And I think they did the best that they could in order to get me with the resources that I needed, especially when I was younger and I had more issues.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How about a different question? So, you discovered you were autistic pretty young. Uh, but what about your parents? When did they find out?
I think I was about 3 years old. In a
3 years
lot of
old? God.
instances, there were some developmental milestones that I probably missed. Like for instance, I didn't talk until I was 4.
Mm-hmm,
And typically, if you're a late speaker like that, it's somewhat of an indicator that you might be on the autism spectrum.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I think there were a number of like indicators about behavioral things or developmental milestones that I missed that um, I think drew some red flags and prompted my mom and dad to check it out. I think when my mom and dad were informed that I was on the autism spectrum, this was in the infancy of the internet. So there wasn't as much publicly available information as there is now. So they taught themselves about autism.
Gotcha. Huh, interesting. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it was a different time back then to find out information about autism. There wasn't groups like this. A lot of the autism support groups that we know of now, they just weren't around at the time. So all you had was, I mean, it wasn't even the internet. You just had your physicians and big, like the mega autism groups that we all don't like. Uh,
Yeah, those ones. I know what you're talking
mhm.
about.
Yeah. Did your parents report feeling like when they went to these, did they ever go to these big mega, ever attend meetings for these big mega autism groups?
I don't know if they were. I don't think they were ever involved in. I guess you would say something like an autism. I don't think that they were ever involved in something like an autism speaks.
Uh,
Oh, thank God. But let's just say that they were very involved with San Diego's Autism Society from the beginning. Like my mom used to be on their board of directors,
mhm.
so in a lot of ways that was very helpful for her. And my mom and dad were also very present at a lot of the autism events, just in terms of not only meeting people, but just asking questions and just finding allies in the community that had similar issues and challenges.
Hmm. Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I guess that's how it was for my mom. She had just had to rely on other allies, right? Like my mother spoke to other parents who had children in the autism spectrum, and from there she learned. And they would like direct each other to small autism groups. And now those autism groups have grown a lot, like the Autism Society, for example. My mom was never really involved with mega autism groups. Yeah, Autism Speaks. Yeah, Autism Speaks is like one.
They don't
The
speak for us.
Yeah, they don't. But yeah. Um, did you receive interventions growing up?
I did. So I received, I guess you'd say, occupational therapy, speech therapy, um, and those were conducted throughout elementary school, middle school, high school as part of my IEP. I received academic accommodations like extra time for testing, an instructional assistant. Trying to remember what else I had available to me. Oh, I had I have pretty awful handwriting, so I had the ability to use like there used to be this thing called an Alpha Smart. I don't know if you remember that, but basically what it was is that you could sort of like the equivalent of having this keyboard on hand,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just type, and you had the ability to connect it to a printer and print stuff. So I had that for a couple of years. Towards the end of my high school career, I was kind of given a crash course on how to use an iPad for educational resources. And for the most part, I did, although I do admit to Google using it for MLB trade rumors and to look up baseball statistics when I was bored.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah. Yeah, I had an iPad as well. I had an iPad as well that was given to me for educational reasons. And while I did use it for that mostly, I did download Plants vs. Zombies too on it, and I got really far into it on it. Um, and I think I used it to read manga as well. So, like, I did use it for a bunch of purposes. I remember going to Mexico once and I brought my iPad with me and I played the heck out of it at night to play, or I used the heck out of it at night to play Plants vs. Zombies 2. It was a lot of fun. But gotcha. Okay, I think we received very similar interventions. My handwriting wasn't very good, and I think either. So I did receive a keyboard as well. Um, that keyboard, were you given like a little computer as well?
I don't know if I ever had. I was never assigned like a laptop as part of my academic accommodations, but I had the Alpha Smart thing, which is sort of like a keyboard with like a screen. So I had that for a couple of years. Um, let's see. I had an iPad towards the end of my high school career, but other than that, that was it from the technology standpoint, from what I remember. In college, like I used like a laptop to take notes and such, and honestly, I can't live without my laptop. Not just from a note-taking standpoint, but that's where all my code lives for not just for educational purposes, but also stuff I do for fun.
Yeah, understandable. And like you're a data analyst. Like you need your computers with you,
It's like
right?
cutting off my hand if I don't have it.
Right, right. Yeah, you need it. You do need it. There's no mistake about that. So, was there certain interventions that you feel like helped out more than others?
It's a good question. I'd say in retrospective, even though I hated it, the speech therapy I think was very helpful.
Uh, yeah, I got speech therapy as well, although yeah, I got speech therapy as well. Well, do you feel like speech therapy was always useful, or was it only useful for when you had certain people as like giving you speech therapy?
Well, I was able to develop rapport with the people that administered the speech therapy. I still keep in touch with my speech therapist from high school. She's an insufferable San Francisco Giants fan, and when I was in high school, they won their two of their three titles in the Bochy era. So every other year, there was a new pennant in her office, and I'm just like, crap. I have to walk in and see this.
Oh, jeez.
It
Jeez.
made for some funny banter, but
Did you have
uh,
uh-huh.
yeah. So other than that, I'd say, shoot, I really got off track here. But yeah, speech therapy was helpful in the sense that there are a lot of little things that I learned, like for instance, trying to gauge nonverbals and such, inferencing and in conversations and in mediums. Um, let's see what else. Yeah, I think just kind of like the little things associated with socialization.
Gotcha, gotcha. Did you have a speech therapy or a therapist outside of school and in school, or just one or the other?
No, I only had a therapist that was assigned to me as part of my IEP.
Mm-hmm.
I actually recently restarted therapy because I've gone from high school until last month without therapy. And I kind of realized that that was a mistake. And I've accumulated a lot of kind of pain as a result of having toxic friends that I cut myself off from.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to deal with tons of residual fallout from that. So I made a conscientious effort to restart therapy just recently. And I'm already noticing the difference as a result of having it as opposed to not having it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, okay. Is your therapist, have you had them before?
No, no, but I was familiar with them in the sense that my brother has worked with her extensively. Um, so it's like it was one of those things where I didn't know her terribly well, but I knew of her. So it's like when I made the decision, okay, I need to restart therapy, and this is a decision that I need to make for me. I'm like, I know this therapist works well with Shane. Let's give her a chance.
Mm-hmm. And you're liking it so far, correct?
Yeah, so far so good.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I didn't get a therapist, or I did get a therapist out in school, but only the one I had in high school really helped. Did you have a therapist in high school, or was it like a therapist outside of high school?
It was the same thing. Therapist. I had like speech therapist that was assigned via my IEP.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
because that's an academic accommodation you can have is in the sense that when you construct your IEP for your child, you can give them like speech therapy just for the socialization aspect. I forget what occupational therapy does, but that's also something.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like, or let me actually not go there yet. Was the, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the speech therapist different from just a regular therapist?
Um, it's basically the same thing, in my opinion.
Okay, and like they follow the rules of
Well,
confidentiality?
yeah, exactly.
Huh,
Like
interesting.
they're technically a medical professional. They have to.
Gotcha. Yeah, that does make sense. Does make sense. So the question I've been meaning to get to, how did you get into coding?
I could spend the rest of this podcast on this, but
Mm,
my background, I guess I would say my career goals were a little different compared to most that I've encountered. I wanted to work in professional sports for the longest time. Um, I wanted to work for like a sports team or a sports organization. So I did a variety of different internships. Um, did a lot of like sports marketing, event management, um, operations. So I did a lot of different things. Most of these were either unpaid or paid right at minimum wage. And then I had an epiphany in my junior year of college. I'm like, this isn't really coherent. Like this isn't lining up to a linear career path. So I've always liked baseball and baseball statistics. And I think it's one of those things where my dad and I had a conversation, and dad's like, I think you'd be good at data science. Like you like the movie Moneyball. You love baseball statistics. You should give this a try. I'm like, you're right. So on New Year's Day of 2019, I bought courses in Udemy for R and Python. So Udemy is an all-encompassing website where you can buy a course and learn about any topic. So I decided to buy a course on on Udemy about R and Python, which are two different programming languages. And that's how I got my start in New Year's of 2019. And when I had dead time in between college courses and work, I that's how I spend a lot of my free time when I wasn't doing homework or working, just finding an hour or two each day or every other day just to learn and just teach myself and try different things. And actually, that's how I sold myself in getting my first data science internship. During the
Mhm.
job interview process, okay, for the context, I actually did a data science internship with Cubic in the summer of 2019, and one of the ways that I sold myself on getting my foot in the door was, by the way, I've been taking this Udemy course on Tableau, so I've been teaching myself how to build dashboards from scratch from different data sets. So I told the lady that was interviewing me that, and I think that was the thing that got me over the finish line and helped me get the internship.
Hmm. Gotcha. Do you read any books on coding as well to help?
Oh yeah, so it's like I take Udemy courses. I have books on data science in my library. I have an extensive folder of like documentation for all my programming languages. I need to organize that one day. It's not as I need to organize all that into subfolders for specific topics so I can find what I'm looking for easier, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I just have about 4 years worth of like resources from data science.
Hmm. Yeah, there is quite a bit. Um, my understanding is that your pathway, your career originally wasn't going to be coding, or that you got your master's in something other than coding. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So I should provide some context. My background is that because I wanted to work in sports, at the time I started college, I declared as business management because I thought my career path was going to be I do an undergraduate business degree and I do something like a sports management degree as my master's. And then things changed. Then I realized that, working in sports wasn't for me. And then, I'd have a better viability as a professional if I switched to data science and I can work in any industry that I wanted to. So that's about the halfway point there. I was about too far gone to switch majors. So I stuck it out by doing my business degree at San Diego State. And I added a statistics minor just to give me more range. And that was a good decision. So I added a statistics minor and I was doing all the programming stuff on the side. And then towards the end of my college career, I did that data science internship with Cubic in the summer. I helped out a startup for about 9 months as a data science intern. So I was doing more Tableau and I was doing database work in SQL. So that was a really fun experience. Not only just getting more experience in data science, but just understanding like what a startup looks like and the type of effort that entails.
Gotcha. What was the exact moment for you that you realized, you know what, business isn't my thing, and that coding is my North Star?
I'd say it wasn't far along after it wasn't that far after I started just teaching myself. I'd say it was probably within the first couple months of just finding time to do Udemy. I'd say it was right around that time where I'm just like, huh, I'm onto something here.
Gotcha. Do you feel like autism helped you get into coding?
Oh yeah. Well, one of the things that I noticed in being on the autism spectrum is that I have insane levels of concentration and attention to detail. So, and I think that's paramount in data science. I can I can go on very lengthy coding binges just because I feel like it, or I feel like there are things that I want to work on. Like for instance, the last time I went on a very lengthy coding binge is that I learned in Python there's a package called plot9, and it allows you to use the ggplot2 library of graphics that's more commonly used in R for visualizations. Like if you want to make box plots or histograms or bar charts, I think that there are other ways to do that in Python, but I think using the plot9 package and the ggplot2 grammar of graphics is like the most useful thing in my opinion.
Hmm.
And I'm also very familiar with the syntax because I've done this for years in R. So I went on a 3-hour coding binge one Friday evening, just understanding the mechanics of how this worked in Python. This is normal for me,
Mm,
actually.
gotcha, gotcha. Is coding full of people with autism?
I'm gonna have to decline to answer that, mainly because I don't talk about my autism in the workplace.
Hmm. Oh, that's understandable. Yeah, you don't know how people might react. It's totally understandable, and I get why many people on the autism spectrum don't want to talk about that at work, especially during the job interview process. I completely understand that. So you had very supportive parents, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and I want to ask, what advice do you have for people with autism and new parents on the autism spectrum? Actually, more specifically, what advice do you have for parents of children on the autism spectrum, new parents of children in the autism spectrum?
So let me just make sure I understand your question. So you're asking me to provide advice for parents that are new to autism or just found out their child has autism. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't have to be like, uh just like what would you like either do you think that would be very good for a new parent to do?
I'd say the first thing is just understand what the symptoms of autism might be.
Hmm.
The CDC has good outline of what some symptoms of autism typically are. So I think just being familiar with what autism looks like is a start. And if you suspect that your child is not hitting developmental milestones or they're behaving in certain ways, I would suggest talking to their pediatrician or someone who's well versed in autism just to get a diagnosis.
Hmm.
Because once again, I don't want to make any generalizations here, but I'd say from my experience that getting help early has been very crucial. In a lot of ways, it enhanced my development.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. All right. Now what are some big no-nos though? How about that? Like what do you think parents should absolutely not do?
I can go on a tangent here, but let me figure this out. I'd say for starters, let's see, not waiting to tell their child that they're on the autism spectrum.
Hmm.
Secondly, I'd say not antagonizing their child as a result of being on the autism spectrum,
Hmm.
or just blaming, like, just saying, or just making it seem like that their autism is the reason why they can't do X, or their autism is why family dynamics are like X. Just not antagonizing them, I think, is a crucial one.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'd say, uh, hmm, I'd say not letting your child with autism be complacent in the sense that you you want to make sure that your child with autism can grow in the sense that you hope that someday they'll have the ability to go to college or make new friends, date, hold down a job. You just want to make sure that over time you impart your child with that type of wisdom to where they can stand on their 2 feet one day. So if you're not taking the steps cumulatively over time to put the child in a position to succeed, they're stuck.
Gotcha. Speaking of socializing and dating, it just reminded me, what autism groups do you feel like have helped you out a lot in particular? We can name drop them.
Yeah, we can. Your group, Mentoring Autistic Minds.
Oh,
No, David, I remember when you were telling me about this idea and you were setting it up and you were getting the 501c designation for to be tax exempt. Yes, I remember very early on you were telling me about this, and I think it, yeah, I think it's great what you're doing there. Not only you're providing an outlet for people to meet each other, but you're providing informative sessions like this where experts on people with autism, yes, people in the autism community like myself, and can just talk and impart advice and just make sure that just make sure that whoever's listening can learn something. And I'm gonna have to name drop my group. Um,
go ahead. Yeah.
so just for further context, I help out San Diego's Autism Society. with a group called Spectrum Social. So I'm going to tell the story from the beginning, and it's going to take a while for me to explain all the context here.
Oh, go ahead.
So basically, in 2020, one of my goals was to network more in the autism community because I've been disconnected from the community for a lot of time. And I just felt like it was time for me to be more involved. And COVID ruined everything. So all my plans were shot. And there's a woman on the San Diego Autism Society board named Casey Howe, who organizes a lot of virtual meetings via Zoom. It's called it's something happy hour. It serves as like a place for parents with those on the spectrum to um, hop on Zoom, maybe have some adult beverages, some social sparklers, and just talk about autism and the kinds of topics that they're experiencing. So I hopped on there just because there were no other resources at the time, and I was totally out of place. I was maybe one of two people on the spectrum there, but Casey and I met and got along really well. So I probably joined their group for about 6 months. And there was one day where Casey pulls me aside before the meeting starts and is like, "So Alex, we've been working on this project called Spectrum Social. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to set up a group to where people in the autism spectrum can meet each other and make new connections and friendships. The problem is we don't have a person with autism to run the group. We think you might be a good fit." So I decided to jump in with 2 feet that evening and take on the project.
That is true. Yeah. And I remember, sorry for interrupted. I remember that I joined one of your meetings once. I had no idea that you were the host. Several years had passed by that we had not seen each other. And then I look at who the host is and I think to myself, haven't I seen that guy before?
Oh yeah, that's oh we're gonna tell that story too.
Go ahead,
Uh,
tell it.
so it was one of the happy hour meetings. I think you joined as well, and I forget what they were talking about, but I noticed in the participants section there was someone named David Rivera, and I'm like, David, wait a minute, why is that name familiar? I'm like, oh wait a minute, we know each other through through Ernesto. And for further context, that's the name of one of my best friends. Ernesto and I have known each other since middle school, and Ernesto introduced me to David a number of years ago. But it's one of those things where we lost contact and just hadn't connected in a number of years. I'm like, wait a minute. So I sent him a note in the chat function in Zoom. I'm like, wait a minute, David, don't we know each other through Ernesto? And that kind of restarted the conversation, and immediately we reconnected and became friends again.
Yeah, I remember that. And I'm pretty sure that was during the pandemic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was during the onset of the pandemic.
Yeah, during that time, I really craved socialization. So I'm really glad I found that group. How did the pandemic affect you social wise?
Oh, it tanked my socialization.
Mm,
Like
mm,
I just, well, for starters, one of my groups, we hadn't had the chance to really connect in a while due to the pandemic, and we're just now restarting and kind of like hanging out again. Spectrum Social didn't exist at the time, and so I had one group of friends. The other group, I used to have two group of friends, but one of them became toxic, and I just dumped them.
mm.
So I had one group of friends, and unfortunately, they aren't the most motivated to. They aren't the most motivated at times to do things. So I remember getting really frustrated.
Mm.
Yeah, so that was very challenging.
Gotcha. Yeah, pandemic really affected us all, but I think especially affected people on the spectrum who, because like we're not a monolith. Some of us really crave socialization, and I got really depressed. I'm sure I met many people on the spectrum who got really depressed as a result of this pandemic. Really crave socialization, and it didn't help that I had many friends who were like really far from me, sometimes in other states, and I couldn't even go visit them. I just had to rely on calling them over Discord or Skype, or I don't remember what I used during that time. I think it was just Discord and Zoom, which is what I used. Um, but How did you started Spectrum Social during the pandemic, right?
It was June of 2021 when we launched, and I think it took us a while to really get going. But in October of 2022, we had a breakthrough when we had I don't remember you were there. We went to biology.
Yes, 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 yes,
We
yes.
went to biology, and I think we effectively conquered a pizzeria, and we I think there were 40 people that were there.
It was great because I met a ton of people there they just that meeting that I went to. You were hosting it, right? Basically, you were
Yeah,
hosting it with
Crystal and
it.
I were working together to host it.
Yeah, that was magical because if I had not attended that meeting, I mean, I think I would have eventually befriended everyone who came there, but I met really wonderful people. I met you. I think it was ZJ. I think I'd already known.
ZJ and Matthew.
But I think I already knew ZJ. ZJ, for context for people listening, is another member of Spectrum Spotlight, or sorry, of Mentoring Autistic Minds. He's also a member of the Autism Society. I met, I'm going to list off some other people that are also part of Mentoring Autistic Minds. So I met in that meeting, I think it was Mallory that
Yeah,
I met, another member of both groups that I mentioned. Sayuri, I met, Yusenya, I think it was Jack, who I
yeah,
keep
Jack was there
calling
too.
Jack.
Let's see, was yeah, no, Matt. That was the day where I met Matthew, Dan, and ZJ for the first time.
Oh, you met Matthew for the first time?
Yeah, that was the day where I think all three of us met for the first time.
That's crazy because I thought you guys knew each other long ago.
No, we just met and just immediately like came immediately immediately just were got became very cohesive.
Wow. That's what I love. Yeah, that meeting changed everything for me. I'm really glad you hosted that event because
Oh,
yeah,
so are we talking about the one in October or the one in January?
I don't remember the biology one.
We went there twice.
Yeah, that's right. The first time though.
The first time was in October. I think the second time was in January.
Well, the October one, that one I really liked.
Yeah, yeah. But either way, we effectively conquered a pizzeria twice, and
Yeah.
we had the chance to just really bring people together that otherwise would not have met, which is literally what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, it was great. Still regularly talk to the people there. Really glad to have met them, and I mean, it's just such a great group. No shameless plug here. When does your
No,
next
no, that's the
Spectrum
whole point.
Spot?
That's the whole point. Let's see here. Let me hop on Meetup and let me hop on Meetup here and provide you with the details. Alrighty. So, just for the record, the Spectrum Social Group is technically an entity of San Diego's Autism Society of America.
hmm
So, just want to make sure that's clear for anyone who's listening to this. So, our next one is let me look at the events here. It's scheduled for hold on. Wow, this is a terrible attempt at a shameless plug. We do not have anything scheduled. Let me get back to you on that one.
It's okay. Well, regardless, Spotlight. Well, I need to stop getting this stuff mixed up. Spectrum Social does events like this. What is it, like once a month or twice a month?
Well, basically, what we do is once a month we do like a virtual meeting via Zoom,
hmm
and the other month we do something social in person.
Gotcha.
And those events are under the umbrella of Autism Society. They help us market it to their audience, and we market it amongst our people that are in the group. But more often than not, our group has gotten so cohesive that we hang out by ourselves. Like David, yesterday we were playing board games at a small business.
hmm
Yeah, like we have some friends at Planet Again. It's a small business out here in San Diego. They focus on taking plants that otherwise would have been thrown away, and they repurpose them into different products that can be sold. Yeah, so the owner of the business, Paige, and I met previously, and last year we had a small event where Crystal and I and a couple other people visited their place for a painting night. And then once our group really took off, in July of this year, I'm thinking to myself, Why don't we try that painting thing again now that we have more people? So, yeah, we went to plan to get in September for a painting thing, and it was really great. And we had a board game event yesterday at Planet again, and it worked out really well. Yeah, so they've become an ally of Spectrum Social.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I attend for some context. Yeah, I did attend it, and Alex was there. A couple other members of both Alex's group and my group were there, and it was just great. I loved it. It was a really well spent Saturday, and I hope to attend more meetings with them. But yeah, let's see. I do want to ask one last question and then conclude because we're only doing this for
Yeah, we
about
have 2 minutes
40
left, I
minutes.
believe.
Yeah. So let's see. What is one thing you wish? What is one thing you wish all parents? Really, I shouldn't go there because I think I already asked you that question or something similar like that. But what is one thing you wish your school district had done a little differently, or what service do you wish you'd received a little earlier?
I'd say mandatory curriculum on autism and disabilities for all students,
That's fair. That's
just
fair. Yeah.
just to promote inclusion and such.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe maybe it's done in a way to where it doesn't single out people that had disabilities in the class, but I'd say education on what disabilities are and how to incorporate people with disabilities and be inclusive and accommodating because people are afraid of what they don't understand.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Well, all right, Alex. I'm going to end the meeting here. It was really wonderful having you as a seventh guest. Stick around though. So I'm going to end this call and then I'm going to come back and we'll do the Q&A session for those curious. But thanks all for joining and I'll see you for the next episode.